We balance for fun first and foremost. Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. So, PC Gamer spoke to Danny Koo, who is the executive producer of Rivals over at GDC, which is Game Developer Conference, which is happening right now. What we're going to do in this video is take a look at what he actually says to PC Gamer, because there's a ton of stuff. I mean, firstly, there's the way that they approach the balance of the game. You've got the way that they approach adding new heroes to the game, and the fact that they're actually going to work on more insane, like crazy heroes like Jeff and Squirrel Girl, instead of just like the more standard Marvel heroes that I guess everyone expects, because they kind of enjoy throwing those curveballs out to the community. But yeah, we're going to take a look at this because it's really interesting stuff. We balance for fun first and foremost. Marvel Games executive producer discusses Marvel Rivals priorities and why competitive balancing comes second. So that is a bit of a inflammatory title if you are of the mindset of, well, the game needs to be incredibly balanced, especially for competitive play. That sort of top-down balanced perspective of the game needs to be balanced for where the highest level players are, and that will filter down to the lower ranks. But Rivals is like, well, no, actually, we want the game to be fun. And if it's fun, then we'll worry about balance later. But we're definitely not balancing the game for competitive first, which is a very interesting sort of, well, I guess, viewpoint to take, because almost every single game out there, which is multiplayer, which is PvP, which has a competitive system, generally balances from the top down. So every character we balance for fun, first and foremost, as in if the character is fun or not to play, that's always number one. Danny Koo, executive producer of Marvel Rivals, tells PC Gamer in an interview at GDC. And then the team has data on win rates, making sure that no one character is too painful and oppressive so that everybody's still having fun. But that is secondary. And that's the interesting thing to me there. So there is this duality again of looking at the stats, right? So we've seen heroes that have been totally broken. I think let's just use Moon Knight as a recent example. His ultimate was doing double damage, and the Hands of Khonshu were coming down a lot faster than they do now. They did come in and they did change that and they did nerf it. And credit to the devs, they did say if anything is notoriously broken and is sort of bringing the game into disrepute, they will act faster now and like basically patch that out of the game. Whereas obviously with the Moon Knight example, they didn't do it immediately. They waited for the next patch, which took a bit of time, you know, blah, blah, blah. But now they are going to do that faster. So you've again got these two things, right? You've got them saying, look, we want the heroes to be fun to play, because if they're not fun to play, no one's going to play them. But we're also going to look at data on things like win rates. And also we're going to try and make sure no one character is too painful or just too oppressive, which stops other players having fun. And to be honest, I think that's fine. For the competitive side of the game, all that havoc can make a Marvel Rivals match overwhelming and slightly out of control, but NetEase believes this disorder is what makes the casual side of the game so much fun. This game is built to be more acceptable for casual play, Koo says. People just want to have fun at the end of the day. That balance for fun is always the key number one priority of anything. So I think there, you've got the statement there from the executive producer that when they are designing stuff for this game, it is primarily for fun. Now, it seems insane to say that out loud, because I know as time goes on, the competitive community gets more vocal. It's generally led by like streamers, content creators and whatever, and they're like, this is terrible. I'm getting into a lot of terrible games. I mean, recently we looked at the rank distribution, and that kind of highlighted the very casual nature of competitive in Rivals. But I think if all you want is a fun experience, you get to play characters that have got really fun and unique kits and interesting maps, interesting game modes, you're always going to get this with Rivals. And I think for me, as I step back and I look at this game and I go, where does Rivals fit into this sort of ecosystem of the hero shooter? Well, there's only really two right now. I know there's other games out there, but there's just Overwatch and there's Rivals, right? And Overwatch is a lot more of a hardcore game, especially if you're playing in competitive. It's a lot more difficult. The rank system is a lot more punishing. You have to be like very, very good at your hero. You have to start reducing the number of errors that you make to rank up. In Rivals, it's not as demanding. And as we know, you can just pump loads of time into Rivals and you will rank up. All of these approaches are like that. End of the day, why do we play games? We play them to have fun. I like sitting down and having like, I always play competitive in Rivals. I very rarely play quick play. I play competitive, and the main reason for that is I quite enjoy the pick ban system, but I also like the fact that generally teams play a little bit like sort of cohesively in competitive, and they try to get the win a little bit more than they do in quick play. But in quick play, they still do that anyway. I think the only difference in my mind is in quick play, I'd go there to learn to play a hero, whereas competitive, I would never go, you know what, I'm going to try and play Spider-Man. I'm just going to start playing him in competitive. Although quite a lot of people generally do that for some reason. Players want to feel like they're playing as unique character as possible, Ku says, and the team has pulled it off with every single character. I mean, the latest content with the Human Torch and the Storm and the Flame and Whirlwind combination becomes a Firestorm. That in itself is visually spectacular. But then, I think the graphic team also needs to make sure that it doesn't kill your entire graphic resources, especially if you're in the eye of the storm. Now, yeah, this is sort of true, but I mean, you can counter this quite easily and say, well, a lot of the support ultimates are just a big circle that heals, right? Or DPS ultimates are a big circle that does damage kind of thing. So I still think there is a lot of sort of space for them to be a bit more unique with some of the ultimates specifically. But yeah, I think that's fine to say. And it's interesting that he does touch on the graphic resources, right? Not wanting to make the game not run even less smooth than it does. I mean, it runs okay, Rivals does. I mean, I'm blessed to have a fairly good PC, so like I can sort of get away with it. But this isn't levels of performance you get in games like Overwatch. I mean, Overwatch categorically wipes the floor with Rivals when it comes to frames per second. There is literally no comparison there. Casual and competitive coexist, but the majority of players will not play competitive anyway, that's for sure, Ku says. They just want to have fun with friends and go, hey, let's queue and do a quick play. But competitive is also important, right? Because players also want an avenue to show off their mastery. And yeah, like I think what we've got here is it's most of the players are not playing competitive. Most play quick play, non-competitive modes. I think this is the same for a lot of games out there. And so what they're basically saying is we're designing the game for you, but also we're still designing it for competitive players. Like, they don't want to just throw one element of the community into the bin or the trash, so to speak, because they still want to say, like, hey, we're doing it for both. They can't kind of have it both ways. And I think it is quite clear that the game is predominantly designed for more casual play than it is competitive at this moment in time. Ku also explains how the team is always open to exploring new modes, abilities, and heroes to keep things as fresh as possible. The only door that remains closed is something that I want more than anything else for Rivals competitive mode. No role queue. That's what makes this game so unique. So we had a bit of introduction there from the author, and then obviously Ku just says no role queue. That's what makes this game so unique. So again, you have got this steadfast dedication to the fact there will not be a role queue in this game. Now, I don't think the game needs role queue. I'm on record saying I think it's fine without it. It leans into the fact it's more casual as well, the fact you can play different heroes, but also sort of at the higher levels, it makes the game a bit more tactical because you do have that choice to switch up. Maybe you want 3 DPS, maybe you want 3 tanks, maybe you just want 1 tank, maybe you want 2 tanks. You know, you can go for a support heavy comp, maybe you don't. Like, these things can be cured with balance, but I think it's quite good that you do have that sort of ability in the game to just decide what your team comp is, although generally it normally is 2 tanks, 2 support, and 2 DPS. It's generally what I've been seeing. But again, I'm trash and I'm only playing in like GM level anyway. So yeah. While ensuring players are always having fun is clearly the top priority, NetEase is paying close attention to how the most skilled corners of its community play Rivals. We always look at it and balance it if necessary each season to see how fast players progress, Ku says. And in terms of matchmaking, we always pair you with people with the same level and the same rate as you to make it a comfortable experience. And that's fine, you know. They're not just throwing balance away. And this is a statement to sort of reassure people who are putting a lot of time into competitive, going, yeah, we are actually going to balance the game still. But yeah, I think you just kind of need to say this. But yeah. Marvel Rivals devs like throwing in curveballs to make the roster more interesting, meaning we'll probably get more characters like Squirrel Girl and Jeff the Land Shark. And I think this is probably a good thing, because if you guys remember, when Jeff was actually announced, he took the, I guess, social media around Marvel Rivals by storm, and he was everywhere. There was loads of TikTok, shorts, reels, videos, all that kind of stuff, right? He was absolutely everywhere, and I bet you the developers and probably the PR people and the marketing people are like, you know what? We need more of that. So more crazy heroes is probably a good thing to do, because people remember them more than, I guess, the more standard heroes like where's Deadpool? Well, you've got Jeff instead. Jeff knows Deadpool, right? But we ain't got Deadpool yet. But is Deadpool going to be a massive character when he's added to the game? Of course he is. But I think actually another example would be Blade. We think Blade is going to be the next hero. But is he going to set the world on fire like a Jeff would? It's an interesting thought, isn't it? Roughly 70% of the roster is made up of your greatest hits, like well-known heroes, Iron Man, Cap, etc. Danny Koo, executive producer of Marvel Games, tells PC Gamer in an interview at GDC 2025. And then we'll throw in some curveballs you might not even know who they are to make the roster more interesting. And I think this is fine, right? You've got to remember I was going to say the Rivals universe, but I guess it is. But the Marvel universe is actually massive. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of characters. You could take the most obscure character that only appears in like one singular page of a comic and turn it into a hero. There's a lot you can do. Or just straight up invent characters as well is something they can do. So there's a lot they can work with here. Regardless of how popular a hero is, all of them undergo the same scrutiny during the development phase. What we do is, whenever we have a character, we come up with a character background, who they are, and the comic references that appear in what they do, and we hand that over to the design team. Koo says. They then come up with some ideas and we'll both agree on what their baseline is. When we feel good about that, the hero, we go into production. Then the marketing team is like, okay, how do we present this to new players that might not know whose world this is? Do we need to explain it? We have a comic historian come in. So I think this is cool, right? Like, obviously, you're going to need... like the Marvel fan base is rabid. You guys know this. Everyone knows this, right? So if you make even the smallest mistake, they will destroy you for it. So it is good that they've got these layers. Now remember, anything that Rivals does, or I guess NetEase, with their development team working on Marvel Rivals, it has to be approved by Marvel. So they're not going to just allow things to be added to the game that don't make any sense. And also, the developers are not going to spend a lot of time working on something if it just isn't going to make any sense being added to the game. So it's interesting they come up with an idea, they maybe come up with a couple of examples of where this character is in the world, and then they send that forward to Marvel and say, will this work? And Marvel come back saying like, hey, yeah, it will, and here's a load of sort of lore around this character and what this character probably should do, which I think is really cool. When it comes to future editions, the devs are open to exploring almost every hero, which is a good thing considering that there'll be 2 new heroes added every single season. Nothing is out of the question for now, Koo says, but we focus on making sure the characters are distinct from each other. For example, Hulk and Red Hulk roughly have the same silhouette, so we may not want to do that one. Their abilities have to be as distinct as well because we have all kinds of players. Some players love to be strategists, some players love to dive into the action, and some players just like to watch other people play, so we have to tailor to every kind of player. Now, I think there's obviously the interesting takeaway here is you're not going to get Red Hulk. I mean, why would you get Red Hulk? It's literally the Hulk, right? So I think the easiest thing to do is just the skin, which I think was some of the community members thought that actually might have happened, but it didn't for the latest Captain America movie, but whatever. Yeah, so Red Hulk doesn't make any sense. You're not going to have characters that are literally identical. And that makes sense, right? But again, like, yeah, this is almost like a non-answer in a lot of ways. They're always going to make heroes for every single type of role. They're not just going to say we're only making tank heroes for the next 6 heroes, so deal with it. I probably think we're going to see quite a like bouncing around of the heroes. I mean, when you look at the heroes we've got added through season 1 and season 1.5, obviously you got Mr. Fantastic and the Invisible Woman, so you got a tank, or well, a DPS, but basically a tank, and you got a strategist, and then the next additions were a tank and a DPS. So the question will be, what's the next hero? Is it a strategist? Well, we think it's going to be Blade, so he's probably a DPS. So yeah, I don't know, but I think given the rate they're adding heroes to the game, I don't think it really matters, to be honest. There's going to be tons of heroes added every season, 2 heroes every single season. And remember, the way they've been doing the seasons is, yeah, you've got a season, but the half point in the season is when you get the next hero added and another big update. So in a way, it's almost like you get 2 seasons in one in some sense. All right, guys, let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Like I said, and I've said this repeatedly, I really enjoy getting to see behind the scenes, especially when it comes to game development. And I think with Rivals specifically, the devs are obviously doing a good job. There is actually something I think we should just quickly jump onto. And this is this. I won't read this off, but it's basically a Discord post from James, one of the community managers, talking about Penny's problem. So Penny had a problem with the mines where you could destroy the mines, as they were burrowing, which obviously is not great, and just it was like a massive nerf. But it's basically a bug. And as you said, the correct behavior should be that once the arachnomines are within the cyberweb, they remain invulnerable and cannot be destroyed. Outside of a cyberweb, they can be destroyed as normal. This has been fixed, and I think it only took about 9 hours for the devs to fix this. So they are very reactionary. They are fixing problems if they're major issues that need solving, which I think is a good thing. All right, guys, let me know what you think about all of this in the comments below. I've been Stylosa. If you enjoyed the video, then yeah, let me know what you think about it. Like the video, it helps a lot. I'll catch you guys on the next one. See you soon.